There's memes about everything and anything nowadays, even disturbing memes. And in this video, we'll be diving on some disturbing memes with unsettling backstories. Welcome to the secondary channel, where I post whatever I want, and let's not waste any more time. Warning, this video will touch on heavy topics. Viewer discretion is advised. Meet my bestie in 2049 when the government announces they will be checking those with neural implants for unpatriotic thoughts in order to make America great again. It is undeniable the amount of oppressive and even dystopian surveillance that is being pushed in several countries. It even feels like every country decided to wake up just to fuck everybody in the head at the same time. From mass censorship to the de-anonymization of the internet, cameras with AIs, to even central bank digital currencies. All of them disguised under the lie of security or even convenience. But in the end, it's just a trap to take your rights away and force you to act a certain way, or else you'll be cut out of society. And let's not even get started on the fact that unpatriotic thoughts are relative, and nobody is going to agree with their government 100% of the times. Sure, the meme might be exaggerating a little bit, but at the rate things are going, this future is not far away from us. When you hit your knee on the corner of the table, and the surge of incomprehensible pain forces you to eat the nearest person alive. This just happened to me a couple hours ago, and I'm still quite peckish. When you catch yourself laughing at a TikTok about Epstein, and realize the government won and has used mimetic warfare to desynthesize everyone about the files. I literally have nothing to add to this, because the meme is very straightforward. It's crazy that no one has been arrested, but yet, there's civilians who will face trial because they talked about the files. What a twisted world we live in. You find a job offer on Craigslist to look after a farm and feed some cows for some pay. You accept the offer as you're financially unstable with nowhere to go. After hours of driving, you finally make it to the property. You don't see any cows, or farming equipment, or even a farm at all. You start to develop a strange feeling. What's that clicking sound? You were completely conned. This meme on itself is somewhat vague, but strikes a very close resemblance to the crimes of Richard Beasley. Richard Beasley was a 52-year-old man from Ohio who had a horrible past, tainted by divorced parents and an abusive alcoholic stepfather. And if things couldn't get any worse, Richard was also a frequent victim of sexual assault by other youngsters in his neighborhood. This obviously affected Richard to the point of him developing depression, an alcohol addiction, and low self-esteem, which then bled into his life as an adult. Richard had several run-ins with the police and ended up being sent to prison on the charges of burglary and for the possession of a firearm, being released in 2004. But this was not the end of his criminal career. In 2011, Richard, along with Brogan Rafferty, who was only 16 years old at the time, forged a plan to create fake job offers on Craigslist that sounded too good to be true. $300 per week to work at a farm with free housing included. All of this with the sole intention of making the victim bring their own belongings, to kill them, bury their bodies, and sell their stuff. With the victims being Ralph Geiger, 56, David Pauly, 51, and Timothy Kern, 47. Their last victim, Scott Davis, luckily made it out alive after he heard the gun misfire and after being hit once in the elbow, where he then fled into the forest and hid away for 7 hours. Where he then left his hiding spot at nighttime and ran to the closest house to ask for help. Richard would be sentenced to death, but to this day he's still waiting in death row, and Brogan was sentenced to life in prison. This one is super heavy. You commit suicide. Your bandmate finds you and poses your body to take a picture before calling for help. It becomes the cover of a bootlegged album. In order for this to make sense, first I'll have to talk about the band Mayhem. Not the current Mayhem, but the band's early days. Mayhem was a black metal band formed in 1984 by Hieronymus and Necro Butcher. Their names will be on the screen because I refuse to read them, like I simply can't. 4 years later, the band would ended up taking new members, with them being Dad and Hellhammer. Dad was the previous vocalist for the band Morbid, and Hellhammer was an experienced drummer at the time. But let's focus on Dad. Dad was notorious for being the first musician to use corpse paint and to cut himself on stage. However, these actions reflected a lot about his mental state, but in general, the band was hardcore, even bringing sheep and pig heads on stakes. Later, in 1990, the members of Mayhem, Hieronymus, Dad, and Necro Butcher, ended up moving together to a house in the mountains. And this is where things start to get worse. According to Necro Butcher, there, he noticed that Hieronymus and Dad used to get under each other's skins a lot. There was even an incident where Hieronymus was playing a music that Dad hated, making him leave the house to sleep in the woods. When this happened, Hieronymus went outside with a shotgun and started shooting in the air, very likely in an attempt to torment Dad or to not let him sleep. To easily put, they were not friends. This would eventually lead us to the incident of April 8th, 1991. Dad would be left alone at the house. There, Dad would write his note and later would take his own life with a shotgun. Euronymous would later stumble across the scene, where he then went to buy a disposable camera, rearranged the scene, and then took a photo of Dad's corpse, which was later used as a cover for a bootleg album. Obviously, most members and friends were disgusted by Euronymous' actions, as they should, with Necrobutcher stating that he allegedly contemplated on killing Euronymous due to the way that he treated Dad. According to Dr. Schwitz, who was Dad's close friend, he believed that the reason why he took his own life was a combination of factors. Dad was bullied when he was young and would always keep to himself. Mayhem wasn't having as much success as he wanted to compared to the previous band that he was in. He was depressed and already had self-harm tendencies. He would starve himself and wouldn't really take care of himself. And as previously stated, Euronymous didn't like him and bullied him even further. If you don't believe this part, or you're still having, some doubts about this part, just think about the way that Euronymous handled the situation. He wouldn't do this to a person you love. And coming back to Sweden empty-handed was admitting defeat. Euronymous would end up dying on August 10th, 1993, after a whistleblower told Vickers that Euronymous intended on stunning him, tie him up, and torture him, solely to record it, and probably exploit it as well, where then Vickers ended up killing Euronymous. Vickers was eventually charged with first-degree murder and a few more charges, and spent 21 years in prison. Jeez man, this one is so fucking dark, not gonna lie. There's no other word for how disgusting this is. I'm not gonna use evil or wicked because that's what he wanted. He wanted to portray evilness in black metal. I would say that he was a complete psychopath with a bunch of loose screws, and this is to put it lightly. Now to end up in a lighter note. Me watching as my leg slowly starts to rot after I had accidentally scraped my knee. Yep, this can happen apparently, but thankfully it's very rare, and trust me, do not search this, okay, you're gonna regret it. Necrotizing fasciitis is a very rare infection that can be caught from a cut or a burn. In this infection, the bacteria would release toxins that cause the death of the body's soft tissues, with the only solution being to remove the infected skin. Thankfully, this infection is curable and it's super noticeable, so no, it's not happening to you right now. Since it spreads rapidly, it causes severe pain and fever. With treatment, this infection is 30% lethal, but without it, you will die. Better not scrape your knee next time. After this video, I just have one thing to say. Till next time, take care.